Okay. Okay. Okay, ¿listos? Sí. Okay, yo creo que ya. We're gonna start then. Okay. So, okay, so circle, how are you feeling at this moment, please? Okay. So go ahead, draw a circle about how you are feeling at this moment. Okay. Okay, so many of you over there. Green, layout, okay. Let's see. All right, so my presentation today is, as it's titled here in Spanish, mi experiencia binacional como docente del idioma inglés. What's it like to be a teacher now, what from the USA, now here in Mexico as well. All right, so let's get started. All right, I'm going to be talking about me a little bit, what I do, my experience, and my work. Right. So let's go. Okay, so type 2 questions you have for me today about this topic. So before we move on to our next part, just 2 questions that you have. Maybe you thought during the week, or 2 questions you have about me, or about what was it like in the US, or what is it like in here in Mexico. Okay. So some of you are writing still. Okay. All right, so some of you, what is the difference between studying a language and living the language? That's a very good question. Is it hard to find a job as a teacher in the US? Interesting. Okay. Is it difficult to be a teacher in the US? How many years did you spend? Okay. Dynamics. 2. What does your job involve? Would you say, okay, delete response. Okay, so those are some great questions, and we'll be answering, I guess, most of them throughout this whole presentation. Okay, very good. I like seeing you guys participate. All right. So yes, many of these questions actually will be answered in my presentation. Okay, and we will answer any of them afterwards as well. Is it easier to be a teacher in Mexico or in the US? Okay, interesting. Okay, next. Okay, so about me really quick. So my name is David, and I'm an American English teacher born in the US. So I lived in the state of New Jersey for many years before coming to Mexico. My family and I lived in Mexico City first, before we finally came over here and settled in the state of Tlaxcala, which we are right now. At the present, I am still an English teacher, tutor, workshop, and course developer, and lately as also Duolingo ambassador and host for the state of Tlaxcala. So the next question is, okay, guys, this is a map of the US. All right, where do you think the state of New Jersey is? Let's see if you guys can identify where New Jersey is. All right, all you have to do is just drag an icon and put it over here. So where is New Jersey? All right. Let's see some responses, people putting it here. All right, in this area. Okay. Let's see. All right. So some of you have an idea. So it's over here around this yellow flag here. All right. So that's where I was born. Okay. Nice job. Next. So what do I do right now? All right. So what I do is, as a teacher, I always try to find the particular and right way to approach a topic, subject, or area of study that best helps the student or the group. So I look for the best teaching and study route for students, for people in general, all right, so that they can have a better, deeper, clearer understanding of the topic, all right? So first off, so I have a master's from the UBC, which is here, University of Baja California. I've also taken courses from the National Geographic Program for Teachers, which is the LET. And of course, also for Google Education. I've been working also with that with some of my students as well. So I've been active around those things. Okay, next question for you guys. So this is just a statement, but I want you to think about it. It says, you know more about your country when you live outside than when you live inside. Is that true or false? What do you think? Do you know more about the US when you live outside of the US? Do you know more about Mexico when you live outside of Mexico? So let's see what you guys answer. All right, let's see some responses. Okay, so 2 people say true, others say false. All right, some people say true. Interesting, like almost 50-50. All right. So my experiences. So let's talk about what I've been doing in my experience both here in Mexico and the US. So, all right, so living in the US. So while living there, I learned both English and Spanish because I attended a bilingual elementary school in New Jersey, which actually helped me and other students develop both languages basically at the same time. Later, I attended another elementary school that was just completely in English. However, by that time, I had already become bilingual as much as possible. And my family moved around New Jersey just a lot of times due to work offers, job requirements, and so on. So I really moved around a lot in the state. Right? When I was in middle school, I was also a member of the student newspaper club. All right, I remember that was called the Paw Press. And that's where I actually started growing an interest in writing journalism, even though I was just a cartoonist, basically, for the team. We'll probably talk more about that later on. All right, now, present time living here in Mexico. So when I first came to Mexico, guys, I must say that I did think that a lot of Mexico would be like in the Speedy Gonzalez cartoons. I really apologize for that. But I would say a lot of Americans actually kind of think of that about Mexico. If they don't travel a lot, they kind of think that everything is like in the Speedy Gonzalez universe. So I quickly realized I was completely wrong. All right. So years later, I continued studying and dived into the fields of computer science, network, even animal medicine for a while, business and entrepreneurship before finally landing into the language teaching world. So I have since focused on my career both as an English teacher and entrepreneur. And I have learned more of the U.S. here than in all my life over there. Okay, so that's something interesting. I've really actually learned more living here in Mexico about my own country than when I was there. So what do I do as my work now? All right, well, all right, my work right now basically is 3 things which I do, which is being a freelance teacher. I offer classes, I tutor students, I host groups, preparation for TOEIC, TOEFL, other stuff as well. As an educator, I just became a Duolingo host basically last year, and I represent Duolingo here in the state of Tlaxcala. I also regularly host events on Saturdays, and I will be letting you guys know about that more later on. And as an entrepreneur, I really work online and develop courses and workshops for both students and teachers. And it basically is that I just decided to stop working as a teacher towards the end of last year, which was 2020. All right, so just to focus on my career as a freelance teacher and entrepreneur. All right. So while working here in Mexico, guys, I learned a lot of stuff. So actually, after completing my studies at the UBC, I worked in different places and took various jobs. So I started just giving classes to young children, like English classes. I worked in a restaurant and a water purification facility. Here in Mexico, it's also known as Las Purificadoras de Agua. So I worked there for some time. I walked dogs. I worked in a pet shop for many years, and I finally entered the English teaching world like around 5 years ago. So I was looking for a school that was offering a TOEIC exam in Tlaxcala. That's how I basically started. And after I applied and took the exam and everything, and they gave me back the score, they offered me a job. They said, hey, your score is, you have a great score. Would you be interested in becoming a teacher? So I never thought about that, honestly, because I do like reading and vocabulary, but I was not a good grammar student many years ago. I just did not do well. So grammar was not really my specialty, but my father was really a big inspiration for me, and he was the one that advised me to just leave my comfort zone and do something that I just completely did not like, just to really see if I had no talent at all in there. Right? But it turned out that it was, and actually still is. Right? So it's one of the best decisions I have made. So I'm really glad my father kind of pushed me towards that. All right. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. So let's see, guys. How do you feel now ready to participate with me? We're going to be doing a little more of some pair decks. All right. And we're going to do some Q&As with you guys now. All right. So let's see responses. How do you guys feel? All right. So one person is ready to participate. I'm nervous about it. Okay. 2 people are nervous. 1 is absolutely ready. Okay. 4 are nervous. 5 are nervous. 2 feel, yeah, I feel okay. And you got a lot of nervous people today, but don't worry. I mean, we're all here really to learn. Right? It's a fun learning experience, so don't be nervous about it. We're just here to learn from mistakes, make some mistakes, also, and learn from them, basically. All right, here we go. Next one. All right, so draw or type 2 things that you learned in today's lesson. All right, it could be something personal. It could be something that maybe you saw in somebody else's life. So I know I'm going kind of quick with this, but I just want to really answer your questions and have a real-time discussion with you guys. All right, so let's take a look at some responses. Where is New Jersey? It says being a teacher is much more than being in the classroom. Speedy Gonzalez cartoon. Okay, so maybe some of you don't know Speedy Gonzalez types of certification. Okay, all right, good. All right, interesting. Let's put that in, I think, on the list layout. Where's New Jersey? Types of certification. Mexico is not like, yes, of course, that is a definite good one. Mexico is definitely not like in the Speedy Gonzalez cartoon. I came to realize that really quick. A number of programs for teaching English, all right. Being a teacher is much more, right, good. All right, the next thing. So let's just reflect really quick. All right, so what did you like? What didn't you like? What was easy and what was hard? You can talk to me about grammar. You can talk to me about the pace of the presentation. All right. Something you like, maybe something you didn't like that I should have presented. All right, so go ahead. Feel free to write your responses. Let's see some of the presentation. I like the brief presentation because it was funny. Okay. Maybe I made you laugh a little bit. Okay. Like the presentation? Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're going to have a lot of time for Q's and A's. Like the presentation. I understand the whole situation. What methodology is, all right, is more effective. Presentation. All right, guys. Good. I like the presentation. I like the ease with, what does it say here? With which you shared your experience, sorry. Well, that's sure thing. Okay, good. All right, guys. Now, almost to the end. In 1 minute, write the most important thing from the lesson today. So this can be anything like that you found interesting for you, or something that you've seen that you found important. All right, maybe for you, for you as a student, or for those of you who are teachers, for you as a teacher. I mean, for one thing, I'm going to say that I guess one of the most important things is the fact of just leaving the comfort zone. And in my case, I mean, there are a lot of things, but definitely, if I wouldn't have come out of my comfort zone and be like, you know, I don't do English, I do programming, or I do computers, I do STEAM, I don't do English, so that's not my area. You know, I would not be here today with you guys. I would not be an English teacher. There are just a lot of experiences that I wouldn't have if I never said, yeah, I want to be a teacher. No, I never thought about that when I was growing up. I never thought about becoming a teacher. I would be, you know, working, you know, for a company or designing products or apps, stuff like that. But it turns out to be that being a teacher is one of the best decisions I have made. Let's see. All right. So I find it interesting that you said you learned more about being in the US and Mexico. Yes, that is correct. We're going to talk about that some more. Motivation to teach English and Spanish. Sure. Cultural awareness is important. Loving your work is also important. I agree. Education, bilingual. All right. Good. All right. Face to different. Face different situation. Sure thing. Okay. All right, the next thing. So how did you find this lesson? Interesting, challenging, too hard, too easy? All right. So you can select there. You can just drag the icon. All right, this little circle, just put this little circle where you feel is correct. Is it just to right, wrong? Go ahead. All right, we have response. Let's see. So some people just write. Okay, kind of hard. All right, just right, just right. Okay, good. It's a nice response. All right, the next one. So how much did you enjoy the presentation? Okay, so you can just drag your icon here as well, like to the right if you enjoyed it. If to the left it was something that you felt needed fixed or something. You can share your honest feelings here. All right, so you guys really liked it. All right, most of you did. That's good. All right. All right. Next thing, just what do you think of the presentation? All right, so I want you just to, you can type in here your thoughts, any thoughts you've had about the presentation. All right, let's see some responses. I really enjoyed the interactions. I think it's a good presentation. It was a short presentation, but it was cool. Yes, I gotta apologize that it was kind of short. The thing is, I'm going to give a more emphasis to your questions in real time. Because sometimes the presentation can be long, and then the questions are like just 10 minutes. And then, you know, like people have more questions. And like in 10 minutes, you can only answer like, I don't know, 3 or 4 questions. So yeah, I apologize. And even if you wanted like a longer presentation, I definitely can make it longer. However, for you guys in particular, I'm just going to give you more time for, for questions and answering what you guys have in mind so that everybody has a chance to participate before the time's up. It was dynamic, a really useful learning experience. I think it was good. All right, guys. I'm glad you guys liked it. And last but not least, so thank you to all. All right. Here's my contact information in case you guys ever need to send me a message or an email. If you have any particular questions, you can contact me, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. All right.
Okay, teacher. So, well, I know that it was the end of the presentation, but I think that there are some students that couldn't connect to Perdeck and maybe have some questions. So, can they ask you I mean,
oh,
it can be in the chat or I don't know. Guys?
Oh, yes, definitely. All right. So,
especially those who are taking the society course. Okay, Moni, do you have a question?
Most of your microphones are on mute. If anyone has a question, please, I'm going to open also the chat section so I can look at your questions, but make sure you can also, give us your question directly. Just open your microphone so that we can listen to you. So where is it better to teach, in Mexico or the US? Well, okay, I'm going to be honest here. I have not taught in the US. I lived there for many years and I studied there, but actually I did not become a teacher, at least, an English teacher, until I came here to Mexico. So I would say I'm not really familiar with how is it like to teach in the US. I can tell you about my life experience, what I've seen, what I've learned about living there versus here. I can definitely tell you about that. But as for teaching, I guess I have only taught here in Mexico at the moment. I guess I will be teaching there maybe in the future. However, right now, since I'm located here, I've only been a teacher here so far. All right, good. What I can say, it's kind of similar, There are some things that actually, quite similar in the U.S. and in Mexico as for teachers, right? One of them is that definitely being a teacher, like not everyone who's a teacher is actually is because they want to be a teacher. All right. So I don't know if you guys know about that. All right. Now let me just explain. There's an idea. All right, I've heard that in the idea in the U.S. and in here in Mexico, where sometimes, like the best science teachers, like the best science engineers, math people, and all of that, they kind of work like for companies, for like NASA, at certain institutions, research labs, etc. Like all of these top people work there, right? And if an engineer, a mathematician, a developer, something like that, sometimes doesn't have or can't get one of those positions, they kind of end up taking a teaching position because that's like what's more available. All right. So that's why sometimes it's said that like the best math teachers are not at school. They're like in some other place, practicing. But then again, that's not true in those situations. That's just like a funny anecdote, if anyone's wondering. So yeah, I've heard that in the US and sometimes here in Mexico. Like in some cases, some of the best teachers, or actually people, have been recruited already. And the people who are teachers are just because they just couldn't find another position. So they just decided to become a teacher because they needed a job, not because they wanted to teach. But then again, it doesn't really represent everybody. That's just a percentage, I would say, a small percentage. Okay, good. We have another question here. Do you prefer
teacher.
English
yes,
or Spanish? Oh,
there is another question.
Yes. Well, what were you saying, Angelica?
Yeah, that there is another question, but you already read it, so continue.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm checking the chat. It says, well, I guess both. To be honest, Monica, a lot of people actually, I host a lot of English classes. I do work on the Spanish as well. I'm working on that. But most of the people right now want English classes with me, not so much Spanish. But then again, that's because I just haven't exploited it as much. I've been focusing a little more on English, but I definitely also will work on Spanish as well. I see, good. We have another question here. It says, what is the most common problem in teaching in another country? Okay, well, what I can say is this. Well, you have to understand what the company is going to offer you. And what you also want to do if you want to be an overseas teacher is that you want to really study the culture, the language, and the institution you're going to work with. So how does this happen? Well, let's imagine you guys. You guys are graduate. You want to be English teachers, and you want to be an English teacher in a remote area. Okay. So what I recommend you is that you study what the school is actually offering, make sure it's legitimate, check for a website, make sure the website is real. Okay, call them, send them emails, make sure that the school exists, because what happens is that sometimes there are fake schools or fake programs. And what they do is that they hire English teachers or language teachers and supposedly connect them with another school, but they tell you, hey, do you want to give classes here? We need you to make a deposit so that we can take care of your air travel, like your plane ticket, your accommodations, the house where you're going to stay at, et cetera, et cetera. And what happens is that you deposit the money. They sometimes give you fake documents or fake websites to look at, and then the result is that the school never existed. They just took your money, right? Or in some other occasions, there are places that actually do exist, but they really pay poorly, right? They say, we're going to give you, this amount of dollars a month. It includes, food, it includes house, or it includes transportation to the school, and et cetera. And then when you go to this place, they're like, oh yeah, but as long as you have like a doctor's degree, like a PhD, or if you have like this super certificate, and you're like, hey, you never told me that. And they're like, well, you had to read, we can't pay you this much, or we're not going to pay the house, the transportation, because you don't have this, right? And they never told you that, So that's also something else that you should be aware of, like these teacher scams, because they are real. So just be aware of that. Okay. Well, we have another question. It says, do you think you can learn more about a country? Oh, yeah, it's about living outside of it. Yes. Yes, guys, definitely. I guess that could be just a huge part of my presentation here, is just to let you know that it is true. All right. Why? Because like when you live in a certain place, you get really used to it. Everything is normal. You're used to the place. People know you speak a language, etc. So you kind of, everybody speaks the same. Everyone kind of has the same mentality. So there is no way for you to compare. But once you step outside and you spend time in another country, you actually start to notice difference, right? It's like this. For example, if you eat at, we're gonna say Juanito's Tortas every day, Juanito's Tortas are delicious because that's the only place you know. But once you go to another place and you start, you go to, I don't know, for example, Comida Auténtica Mexicana, Doña Maria. Okay, so you try another flavor, and then you can compare. You can compare, this restaurant with the other restaurant, right? Then you try another restaurant, and then you have more information. All right, you taste more things, more products, more food, and then you can compare flavors, you can compare styles, etc., etc. So as for me, I think that's a really important point. As an American, I learned more about my country being here in Mexico than outside. Why? Because I actually started to understand about history. I started to understand about politics more. I saw how people are different here. For example, in the U.S., I guess I would say that like maybe not everyone is going to be super friendly, not like in the way here in Mexico. I know that right now because of the coronavirus, we really can't be touching people and so on. But when I came to Mexico, I mean, there were people who were just like very, very kind, and they immediately hugged me, and I just didn't know who they were. That's probably something that maybe many Americans don't do. I mean, there are some who do, but then again, the Mexican hospitality is just wonderful. It's really great, and not everybody, or not every country is that open. So yeah, there are a lot of differences, and I learned a lot more here about the U.S. living outside than in. It sounds ironic, but it's actually really true, and I'm very sure that other people can actually also tell you the same thing. You get to learn more because now you are not like inside the fish tank. You're outside the fish tank. You're observing other things, and that really helps your perspective. Okay. Oh, we have another question here. All right. According to your experience, do you think that the North American education system is efficient with the children from other countries? Good question. Um, not completely. All right. And what happens is this: there are actually schools. Well, talking about the whole education system is going to take a long time. It's really I'm really passionate about talking about that, but I will say I'll try to make it as condensed as possible because it's just a really good topic. So the education in America is actually quite diverse. I would say that if we study like world education or global education, we know that a couple of countries are actually doing quite well, and one of them is actually Finland. So Finland is a country that many people are looking towards in the education because they have a really good education system. So the teachers are teachers. Like to be a teacher in Finland, you have to have a master's degree, which makes a teacher then adequate for being in a school environment. I mean, if a teacher has a master's degree, it's because they really like teaching. That's like they're focused on that. So it's just much easier for that, like to have a good environment if the teachers are really passionate, because like I said, you might have people who are teachers who are just there because it's their job, not because they like to teach. So that's a really important thing that Finland has known how to harness. Also, the fact that they teach some more humanities, the way that they do testing. Over here in North America and in Mexico, there is a lot of standardization. So that means that if you want to pass the level, you have to study for this exam. If you get these points, you pass. If you get lower, you don't pass, right? And yeah, standardization is good, but it should not be the complete thing. Education should be actually more global and should also take into account, the arts, the sciences, the music. There are just a lot of things that sometimes are just missing out, from the standardization, because most standardization just focuses on, English, reading, math, writing, but they kind of omit other things that are quite important to just a general education. So going back to your question, yes, it's really important for us to learn from other countries. As like I said, we can learn a lot from Finland and what they're doing. And then again, there are schools in the US that are running experimental programs. We're going to say like experimental curricula, and they're having a good outcome. But, it's not national. It's kind of more local or state. But we can definitely learn more. As like Americans or even here in Mexico, we can really learn a lot from other countries. Okay, next one. It says, do you think the Mexican education system should take, what do you think the Mexican education system should take from the US? It's a good one. Well, I will say this. When I studied here in Mexico, something that I did not like a lot was, the famous dictado. I don't know if they still do that in schools, like in elementary or secondary school or middle school. But I just did not like the idea of, that dictado, because I just wrote words, and I sometimes got lost, and the teacher would not repeat. Some of them did, but others did not. And I just had a hard time with that. But I guess what they could take, well, definitely we know that the US is big on on digital education and technology. So definitely during the pandemic, every country has been doing as best as possible to digitalize education. I even think Mexico is trying to do a really good job here as well, giving you classes on Zoom or Google Meet, making teachers take courses on conferences on how to use teaching or school products, like digital school products. If I could say that, what would be something, I guess. Probably, I would say probably just getting rid of a couple of very old traditional things like dictado, right, or dictation. I mean, every once in a while it's okay, but if that is like the entire way a teacher is going to teach, I would definitely remove that from the Mexican education system. And yeah, there are also a lot of other things that that could be removed. You know, of course, the American education system is not perfect. I'm not saying that. But if you would like to just remove things, I would start with, you know, just taking that thing off. Because I just, personally, I don't see it really useful for students. Anyone else have another question?
Teacher, I think there is another question from Francisco.
Oh, let me see.
Yeah, that, well, it is on the chat.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Before
I'm so sorry.
Monica's question.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I did not
Yep.
see that. Good. It says, Francisco says, what has it been like to be a language teacher with both cultures around you? I mean, having all this cultural heritage behind you, Mexican American, has it been easier? Well, I will say this. It's a good question, Francisco. Yes, I do have the advantage of being bilingual. I think it's important. In my particular case, this is called a compound bilingual. So a compound bilingual is a person, typically a young person, who was exposed to two languages and develops them simultaneously. All right. For example, you know, people who are compound bilinguals can typically translate almost immediately. All right. So in my particular case, yes, I would say I do have that blessing, that advantage of being bilingual. And has that made me a better teacher? It could. I mean, yes and no. Yes, because as a teacher, I can take, you know, I can really take resources from my experience in my life and just apply them to the classroom. No, because just because a person is bilingual does not mean that they're actually good at teaching it. All right. So there are some things that you, as a teacher, you have to know. Like we were discussing, if you want to be a teacher, you're going to have to study some methodology. You're going to have to study like very the basics of teaching, as well as, you know, history of it. All right. And then again, actually understanding the history of the education system is just another amazing story. But I don't. We're going to get maybe into that in a little bit if we have time. But just going back to your question, yes, how do I do it? Well, I just really mix it. You know, as personally, do I feel like a proud American? I would say I feel okay. I feel what I should be, like a normal sense of pride. All right. Same thing. Do I also enjoy and feel proud of my Mexican heritage? Absolutely, yes. I would say that, you know, I have them both at the same level. I really don't put one over the other. I enjoy both, and I have tremendous respect for both. You know, there were people who actually asked me, you know, teacher, do you feel like you know, do you feel more American or Mexican or something like that? Well, I just really feel both. And, you know, where I am right now, Tlaxcala really reminds me of my home state of New Jersey, which is, it's similar in a lot of things. Of course, it's more urban, definitely. But something that New Jersey has is it has a lot of like these green gardens and areas and forests. We still have woods, a lot of woods over there. And when I'm here, I just really enjoy that as well, because not everything here is like, you know, it's like a city. It's not Mexico City. So we have, you know, a village, we have the woods, we have a lot of agricultural areas. So I really enjoy that. Right. So I have them both, Francisco. I really enjoy both. I try to, when it's convenient to use something from America, I use it. When it's convenient to use something from Mexico, I also use that as well. And I just have to learn how to combine them, you know, in the best way possible for the particular situation. So just taking both and combining them at the time that you need them, right? If I'm going to be talking about food, I might want to present something about Mexican food if, you know, that topic is convenient. If I want to talk about something in the US, like, we'll have to look for what is convenient for that particular topic.
Okay, thank you very much, teacher. I think there's no more questions. So, okay, so let's switch to Spanish. Okay, so muchas gracias. Le voy a presentar en un minutito. Espero que mi internet sea lo suficientemente fuerte. Ok. Sí, ya se ve algo. Ok, bueno, pues este es el reconocimiento que la Universidad México-Americana del Golfo le otorga por
No,
conferencia. ¿Sí la están viendo? Sí.
a mí no me ha llegado.
Por su conferencia, la experiencia binacional de un maestro de inglés, que se impartió el día de hoy, 19 de marzo, con la licenciatura en idiomas y algunos alumnos de centro de idiomas. Le agradecemos mucho su participación, maestro, y esperamos contar más adelante con lo que pudiera dar aquí, en la licenciatura en idiomas.
Ok, ya me está llegando. Ok, sí, muchas gracias, maestra Angélica. Ya ahorita ya está cargando la presentación. Pues yo creo que igual antes de despedirme rápidamente, pues nada más, muchas gracias por también tenerme aquí y me alegra que hayan participado además, que me han mandado sus preguntas. Si alguien quiere alguna vez hacerme alguna pregunta o algo, les voy a dejar mi correo electrónico en el chat. Pueden enviarme alguna pregunta, algún saludo. Si alguien quiere saber sobre las clases o cursos que doy, también me pueden contactar ahí. Si a alguien le interesa participar en el grupo conversacional que imparto los sábados de Duolingo, también me lo pueden hacer llegar a través de ese correo sus preguntas y yo les contestaré. Okay. Entonces, igual para cursos, para clases, para ingresar al grupo, es todos los sábados a las 5. Y ahí hacemos diferentes actividades, pueden conocer a gente de otros países también. Es una plataforma abierta, entonces tenemos gente de Canadá, tenemos gente de Argentina, de Francia, de Alemania entrando, tenemos gente igual de aquí de México, gente de Puebla, de la Ciudad de México, de Tlaxcala. Entonces, hacemos varias actividades. Si a alguien le interesa algo de eso también, por favor, me pueden escribir un correo y con mucho gusto yo les contesto tan pronto pueda.
Maestro David, pues una vez más, muchas gracias por haber compartido con los alumnos de la licenciatura en idiomas su experiencia. Y pues ya lo tienen, chicos, en el chat, y los maestros también que estén interesados en el chat. He tenido la oportunidad de entrar al club de conversación de Duolingo y realmente ha sido una experiencia muy gratificante y efectivamente hay personas de diferentes países. El sábado pasado hubo personas de Turquía también. Entonces, bueno, pues muchas gracias.
Claro, maestra. Ok, muy bien. Hecho. Ok, pues sí, yo creo que si no hay alguna duda o pregunta, pues me despido. Muchísimas gracias, maestra Angélica, y a los demás que también participaron. Y un gusto conocerlos a todos. Cuídense mucho, sigan siendo bilingües, sigan aprendiendo, que es muy importante eso. Muy bien.
Ok, bueno, pues muchas gracias, chicos. Que tengan un buen fin de semana. Y también, maestro, que tengan muy buen fin de semana.
Igualmente, muchas gracias.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Muchas gracias. Nos vemos.
Es igualmente.
Gracias, maestro.
Gracias también por asistir.
Jóvenes de francés, nos vemos ahorita. Buen día, maestro. Hasta luego.